Hello and welcome to this edition of InnerView. I'm Alexandra Illich. On today's show, we will be interviewing a cast member for the Broadway hit Porgy and Bess, as well as a representative from the Wharton Center. But before we go into the interview, let's take a look at the musical.
The Gershwins Porgy and Bess is an American masterpiece. It is one of the most important theatrical works of the 20th century. The story takes place on Catfish Row, which is a community, and this show is about a group of people living in the 1930s, struggling for their existence, who have incredible faith and endurance.
Bess is a force of nature. She's like a tornado that comes into Catfish Row, stirs everything up, stirs everybody up.
Through incredible circumstances, Porgy and Bess really get together.
When you sit in that auditorium and you hear the overture, your spine fills with chills. And now this chance for this same production to be brought all across America is, to me, the most exciting part of our journey yet.
Looks like a very exciting show. Now that we know a little bit more about the musical, let's introduce our first guest. Joining me today is a star of the Broadway hit Porgy and Bess, Alvin Crawford. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
It's great to be here.
I understand last night the show played at the Wharton Center. How are you feeling about that?
It's feeling good. We had a wonderful opening night last night, and the audience was very receptive.
So tell me a little bit about your character in the play and your role.
My role in the play is Crown. He is the quote-unquote, I guess, villain in the show, and it's actually very fun playing villains. Before there was Porgy and Bess, there was Crown and Bess. And so this is not just an iconic love story, it's sort of a love triangle. And in the show, Crown and Bess arrive on a Saturday night for a crap game, and where all the men are having a good time in Catfish Row. And an extraordinary event happens which causes Crown to leave and Bess to look for sanctuary, and that sanctuary is found with Porgy, and then they begin a relationship.
You said you play a villain. How does it feel being, a villain, and what do you do to prepare for such a role?
Well, how do I feel about being a villain? The villain in the show is fun. It can be cathartic. You can get out your day's aggression sometimes. But how I prepared for this role is that Crown and Bess are addicts as well, and I had to sort of research what that means, and how Crown deals with his problems is through violence. And so that's what I had sort of look into and research.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been part of this Porgy and Bess Broadway show?
This production, we began rehearsals in New York City in October, and we rehearsed for 3 weeks there, and then we launched the tour in San Francisco in November. And so we teched the show, so we had technical rehearsals where we added the lights, the stage, the microphones, all of that in San Francisco. And then we opened and we were there for 6 weeks, so since then.
So how long have you been with the cast members preparing for these Broadway shows that you put on?
Since October.
Since October,
yeah.
Okay. Why be a part of such a musical? I mean, Time Magazine had named this the #1 Broadway show. How does it feel to be a part of it, and why be a part of it? Well,
it's been a wonderful experience to do this show because the music of Gershwin is iconic. A lot of people don't know that Summertime comes from this musical, and Summertime is the most recorded song in history. It's been recorded over 30,000 times, and a lot of the feedback we get as we've been going across the country is that they didn't know that the song came from this musical. And so there are a lot of great songs. I Loves You Porgy, Bess You Is My Woman Now, that come from this. And so to have the opportunity to sing this great stuff across the country and bring this American classic to the country has been great.
What would you say is the best part of the show, from your opinion?
The best part of the show is my part of the show. But I think another thing that's been resonating with audiences is the relatability to the characters that in our show, because at the end of the day, it's a community. and how a community operates together, and people see a little bit of themselves, because as I was saying, the relationship between Crown and Bess, everybody knows that couple that should not be together. And you on the phone, leave that woman or leave that guy, and that's Crown and Bess. They're in a toxic relationship, which makes you really root for Porgy and Bess, where you say, that's the one you should be with. Mm-hmm. And then to have those beautiful songs sung so beautifully has just been really great.
Right. What is your, as part of your role as the villain, what are some of the things that you do to maybe create conflict, or what are some things that you do within the show that...
Within the show, well, the story goes that as a result of the extraordinary event that happens in the beginning, he promises Bess that he's going to come back for her and then we'll take up again. But by that time, Bess has fallen in love with Porgy and Porgy with her. And Bess is a wanton woman of the night who is a fast-drinking lady. And Porgy is a good-natured person and a beggar on the street, and for them to find love is extraordinary. But for the very first time in both of their lives, they have the courage to tell each other that they love each other and want to stay together. And I think that's where Bess, You Is My Woman comes in, that beautiful song. But I think what audiences resonate with is that time when you have strong feelings for someone, and it's that first time to say, you want to go have a coffee, mm-hmm. And get to know each other. And I think it's a beautiful moment in the show.
Right. You're doing 8 shows back to back.
8 shows a week, yeah.
I can imagine that's exhausting. Tell me a little bit about how you feel about that.
Well, I mean, it's the traditional Broadway schedule. We do Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and 2 shows Saturday and 2 shows Sunday. And it is a job that we love, but it is a job, and so we have to stay healthy and keep in mind of how we use our voices, because we paid to do that at night. Right. And so, but I'm used to it now in the traditional Broadway schedule.
And Alvin, how long have you been involved in Broadway shows?
For over 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I started when I was a teenager, and then I went on to the Juilliard School to study it, because somebody who was very wise told me I should go study. And I did a show I did Miss Saigon while I was there, and then upon graduation I did a couple of more.
What do you expect to see, performing here at the Wharton Center with the different audiences and crowds? What are your expectations? What can the audience expect to see?
The audience can expect to see a beautiful, streamlined production from the traditional opera. This music was written over 80 years ago and has never been out of the repertoire. It's traditionally known as a full-length opera that are done in the opera houses across the world. But the Gershwin Foundation wanted to create a more musical theater production to bring it to more people. And so they went to Diane Paulus, who is our Tony Award-winning director, and she went to Susan Laurie Parks, who is a Pulitzer Prize-winning author in drama. And they also went to Deidre Murray, who's a Grammy person, and so they came up with, they went by bar of the original score, and to find out how to and create a streamlined production. So some of the characters in the traditional opera have been streamlined down for the story, and so in this production you'll get story and beautiful music.
What type of, obviously this is some type of love story Broadway show. Could you explain a little bit more, briefly in depth of what kind of play this is?
It is, I would say, a traditional musical theater piece of not unrequited love, but of people who are in extraordinary circumstances, doing ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances, finding true love. It's a love story at the end of the day between Porgy and Bess. And almost nothing, including the forces of Crown, can keep them apart.
If you could describe this musical in 1 or 2 words or less, what would you say?
Ooh, I would say 1 or 2 words or less. I would say an American classic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would you encourage people to come see this play?
First of all, it's a great story. And the music is really beautiful, and also I think it's good for people to see something that is traditionally and uniquely American. It's an American story. And I think that people should see it, not just because it's a great story, not just because to come see me be a big brute in the show, but because the music is glorious. There's a reason, I think, that this music has never been out of recorded history. There's a reason why Summertime has been recorded over 30,000 times and holds that record. This is the most popular American opera of all time.
Right.
And so one of the beautiful things that we do in America is do the big mashup, and there's classical influences, there's jazz influences, there's African American stuff, there's Jewish music in it to create this classic. So I think it's an homage to America.
Right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today.
You're very
I really
welcome.
appreciate it, and best of luck to you with your upcoming performances.
Thank you.
After this short break, we'll be coming back with Wharton Center Director of Marketing, Diane Wilcox. Stay tuned for more.
Where do you think you're going?
Who are you?
My identity is not important, but I will not let you operate this vehicle while intoxicated.
What are you gonna do about it? You're just a steering wheel.
That's hilarious, but I got an airbag, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Yeah, okay. That's not safe, you're right.
Don't drink and drive. It's not worth it.
So, I just moved in with his family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
People are normally safe drivers. They stay alert and obey traffic laws. However, sometimes accidents and collisions do occur, and when they do, injuries can be life-threatening. The average person has 10 to 12 pints of blood and gives only one. But one injured car accident victim can require up to 100 pints of blood after a collision. Blood can't be manufactured. It can only come from generous donors. Help save lives by donating blood.
So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice. And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
We couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Diane Wilcox, Director of Marketing at the Wharton Center. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate it.
So, Time Magazine named this Broadway show #1, you know, kind of like a must-see type Broadway show. Can you explain, you know, how it feels to have it at the Wharton Center?
Well, it's always extraordinary when we have one of the top, and we usually do have one of the top Broadway tours on the road, and to have the #1 musical of the year from last year, it's an extraordinary thing. It's a terrific casting company.
And so, from my understanding, you know, it opened last night, and what did you know, what was the turnout? How did you guys, you know, think that everything went?
Oh, it was extraordinary, because when you do a musical like this, it's so very, very powerful. It's not quite the same as a singing, dancing, glitzy Broadway musical. It has a lot of meat to it, and so you're challenging the audience to listen and pay attention. They loved it. The intermission, everything was buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. People couldn't stop talking about it. Standing ovation at the end of the show. So we're very, very excited, yeah.
And so, what is something that the audiences can expect from, seeing this Broadway show?
Well, it's, as I mentioned, it's not one of your standard glitzy, fun musicals. This really is a very, very powerful love story. It has a historic setting. It has those great Gershwin songs, Summertime, It Ain't Necessarily So, I Got Plenty of Nothing, which is great and wonderful. There's a lot of humor in this show, but at its core, at its heart, it truly is a love story that's challenging. It might be considered tragic, although in the end it does end on a very hopeful note. And it is in a historic setting. And so this is a powerful, powerful, magnificent piece with extraordinary music, extraordinary orchestrations. Actually, the orchestrations of the piece are by Bill Braun, who is an MSU alum. So he's from here.
Very cool.
Yeah.
From my understanding, this play was modernized. Was it different? Were there revisions to the production of the play, or?
Well, really what happened was Diana Paulus, who is the director of the show, was chosen to direct the show, and she approached Susan Laurie Parks, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright. And what Susan Laurie Parks did was she took it and she condensed it a little bit, took the language, the libretto of the opera, it's all sung. So she took that and she put it into a little bit more of their vernacular, changed some of the language such that we could understand it as a modern audience, and it is a little more condensed as a whole. It's not that it's modernized, it's still in the same setting it's always been in, and the language of that region of the Carolinas is still intact, all of that. But it's really more a matter of there's a little bit of shortening happening, a little less incidental music to bring it into a time frame that is, in terms of running time, appropriate for Broadway audiences today. So this is 2 hours and 30 minutes, which is easily 30 to 45 minutes shorter than the original.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, is there a difference between Porgy and Bess and then the Gershwins Porgy and Bess?
Absolutely, what I just mentioned. Yeah, the Gershwins Porgy and Bess, the Gershwin estate actually approached Diana Paulus and said, it's time to bring it back, but not as the opera and not as the original 1936 musical. We'd like to take those together and create something that modern audiences can appreciate so that they can see the Gershwin songs in context, which makes it really, really different. Summertime, by the way, is the most recorded song of all time. It's been recorded by pop artists, by opera, by folk. It's a really popular song, but to see it in context, it's a very different experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this the first time Porgy and Bess has come to the Wharton Center in East Lansing?
Certainly it's the first time the Gershwins Porgy and Bess, the Tony Award-winning Broadway revival, has been here. So in this form, this is the first time. Porgy and Bess was indeed here, I believe, in the late 90s, and it was a very different production. It was not the Broadway production.
Is this play for all ages, or, is there kind of like an...
For me, I would say it's not for all ages. To me, I would rate it easily PG-13. It is a very, very powerful piece. There's some violence, there's some sexual innuendo, that kind of thing. It's all at the core and the heart of the musical and the love story itself. And the crown, you met Alvin, who's amazing and wonderful and charismatic. Well, Alvin really is quite menacing on stage. He's the bad guy. So I would suggest it's maybe middle school or early high school and above.
Right. When this Broadway, when whoever is in charge of, coming to the Wharton Center and saying we want to have this Broadway show here, what were you expecting to have such an awesome production come to the Wharton Center?
Well, certainly we were expecting the caliber of the piece that it is. We expected it to be artistically the crowning jewel in our season this year, and it is. This cast does not disappoint. Most of them are from the original Broadway production. The voices are magnificent. We're hearing voices and we're seeing performers who have appeared in opera houses and in theater and performing throughout the world. Some of these folks have appeared on Broadway stage, European stages. They're terrific, terrific performers. So the piece itself, you've got a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright working on it. You have a Tony Award-winning director directing it. It itself won the Tony Award, and we're seeing that caliber on our stage.
Right. from last night, you know, I can imagine there were a ton of people
Yeah.
here. How do you feel about the turnout and how, you know, many people came?
We're actually really, really excited about it, to see this level of support for this kind of piece, although there still are seats available, certainly, and people can get their tickets at whartoncenter.com. We do have plenty of seats available through Sunday, and we are seeing a groundswell of excitement about the show, and I think now that it has had its first performance, we're going to see more and more of that as the word of mouth goes around the community.
Right, and so they will be performing eight shows, correct?
Total of 8. It's 1 week.
1 week. Oh,
Last
okay.
night, Tuesday, through this Sunday, 8 performances, 1 set of 8 performances, and they load out on Sunday night and they move on to the next city.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
They just arrived yesterday morning, had their first performance last night.
What, you know, you had mentioned that you saw the first part of it. What would you say is, you know, something that's, you know, why audiences should come see it, you know, such a Broadway show?
I want to go back to, you rarely get the opportunity to see those Gershwin songs in their context, what they were written for. I mean, we know those songs, we feel like we know them, but there's a piece that's missing when you don't see them in context, and you see why he sings Bess, You Is My Woman Now. That's a beautiful, beautiful, romantic song. It ain't necessarily so. It's funny because I Got Plenty of Nothing actually has sort of a double meaning, and you don't know that if you see it out of context. And when you see Porgy sing I Got Plenty of Nothing, there's a whole lot of something in that nothing.
Yeah.
So it's really different. And also the humor and the fun in the show is absolutely terrific. And certainly that romance, it's just heartbreaking in the second act. So
yeah. What can people look forward to in the coming of the Wharton Center? What types of plays are coming to town? And
well, we don't have another Broadway show until the Book of Mormon, which is in June, which of course is the most popular musical in the world right now. So we only have it for 1 week, and that'll be in June. But between now and then, we've got plenty of things going on. We've got 2 jazz events that are very exciting. We've got the Newport Jazz Festival coming in about a week and a half, and we have Cyrilla May, who is a new, young, hot jazz singer. She's really, really beautiful. She'll be in the Paysant Theater. We also have the dance company Palabolis, which you may be familiar with from some of the really wonderful automobile ads actually that they've done, and they take their bodies and they make amazing shapes where you don't even realize that they're human bodies until they come apart and you see what they've done. They're very extraordinary. We've got the Goo Goo Dolls coming. We just announced Gordon Lightfoot, and then over at Breslin we'll be presenting Cirque du Soleil. So we've got a lot going on.
And then those are the span of, you know, is this for the summer or like the...
This is just between now and June.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we've got a lot more coming, and we'll be announcing our new season by April 25th. So you'll see more about that. So the season that will begin September of 2014 and go through June of 2015.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
You're welcome.
Really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
That's all the time we have for this edition of InnerView. You can follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Home TV, or use the hashtag InnerView. For Home TV, I'm Alexandra Illich. Thank you for watching.